Today is the day we are going to start processing these carrots. I have 70-ish pounds of carrots that came out of this year's garden. This is only 4 out of the 14 bags of carrots we got. So we've got a ton of things on the list that we are going to be making with these carrots today. But before we can do anything with the carrots, we need to get them washed again. They've been washed once coming out of the garden, but that was mostly just to get the major dirt off of them. This wash, I was looking for my colander, my carrots are in my colander, is what is actually going to get them clean. So I've got 4 bags here. I think what I'm going to do, and I'm starting with the smaller carrots first, and I'm keeping the larger carrots in the fridge so we can enjoy those for eating fresh. I want to see how long I can keep them fresh in the fridge. So I'm going to dump a bag of carrots into this first colander. Then I'm going to grab a scrubby. And I'm going to scrub each one of these carrots. This is going to take a while, and we're going to get them nice and clean.
Today we make one of my absolute new favorite homemade items, and it's pickled carrots. It sounds weird, but let me tell you, friend, I've already gone through 1 jar. We make 4 jars on this day, and 1 jar is already gone. So I, this weekend, plan to make 4 more jars. We use all homegrown ingredients, and it's a Mexican side dish that you would put on the side of tacos or burritos or whatever it might be. It's crunchy, it's spicy, it's delicious.
My original plan when I pulled out all these carrots, I actually pulled out 7 bags of carrots, was to wash all of them and then start processing them. But I can already tell that that is going to take way too long, and I need to get a win under my belt. So I went ahead and I scrubbed up 2 of the 7 bags. I scrubbed these really, really well. I went through every single carrot and scrubbed it because I'm not gonna peel these carrots. So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna make some carrot cake. We're gonna make my mom's carrot cake recipe because it's my mom's birthday coming up, and I am making her carrot cake. And then I'm gonna shred up some for dinner tonight. I'm gonna make a carrot salad. I've got my food processor out here. I love carrot salad because it's one of those things you can prep and you can enjoy it for a few days in the fridge. It's one of those salads that holds up really well. And so we're gonna have this for dinner tonight. Since I'm already shredding carrots for carrot cake, I'm going to go ahead and shred some up for dinner as well. And then I'm gonna shred some up to freeze so that I can make carrot cake for my dad's birthday, because carrot cake is my mom and dad's both favorite cake. So I wanna get enough so that I have enough for making more recipes throughout the fall and winter. So here I have my scrubbed carrots. I am gonna take the tops off. We already cut the little root end off, so I don't need to do that today. And I'm just gonna start putting them in the food processor and processing them into carrot shreds.
I am not peeling these carrots because they're homegrown carrots, and I scrub them extremely well. If I was using store-bought carrots, I would take the time to peel all these carrots, but we are just going to go with the whole carrot and cut the top off. I do end up composting the tops. You could save those tops and use them in broth, but I just made a ton of broth and I don't need to make broth for another year, so I don't really want these carrot tops sitting around in my freezer for a year.
That is a lot easier than I was expecting for some reason. I'm not sure why, but here we've got some of our shredded carrots. We need 3 cups of carrots per carrot cake recipe. I just had soap on my hands because I just washed this bowl. And this is probably about 4 cups of carrots. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and shred this entire bowl. So that's 2 gallons of carrots, and then we'll see how many we end up with after that.
I've always loved growing carrots because they were one of the very first things I ever grew as a gardener. In the house that I grew up in, it was surrounded by trees. We lived in the city of Portland, but our house backed up to what was called the Grotto, and it was 36 acres of woods, and there were huge trees in our backyard and kind of in our front yard too. We just had a city lot. It was a small lot, but because we backed up to this green space, there was all these trees, and it was absolutely beautiful and private and wonderful, but it was not very conducive to having a garden. And so my parents did let me have kind of a small garden on our side yard where it got a little bit of sun. And that was the first time I ever had a garden. And I was able to grow carrots in pots on my parents' side yard. It was like this tiny little, maybe like 5-foot side yard where I had some pots. And I remember harvesting the carrot for the first time, rinsing it off and tasting the sweetness of a homegrown carrot. And it was life-changing. It's a core memory of harvesting that carrot, rinsing it off, and just the crunch, the sweetness was absolutely phenomenal. So ever since then, I've loved growing carrots. So I am so blown away that this year the garden produced 70, I think it was like 74, 76 pounds of carrots. So now we get the responsibility of taking care of them all.
I think that's enough shredded carrots I'm gonna start with. I'm gonna go ahead and take just a second and top the rest of the carrots that I have in this bowl already washed because I have plans for them. And since I'm in the mode of topping carrots, I'm just gonna finish getting these topped and then we are gonna finish processing. We're gonna make some carrot cake and get those shredded carrots ready for future use this fall and winter. For the carrot cake, we need to preheat the oven to 350 degrees. So I'm gonna get that going so that's preheating while we're actually making the cake. And one of the next things we are gonna be doing is blanching carrots. I wanna dice some carrots up and get them blanched up for things like soups and stews and all sorts of things. So what I'm gonna do is get some water on to start boiling because we need this to boil. So we might as well have that going while we make the carrot cake and the salad for dinner tonight. I don't like canned carrots, and so pressure canning carrots is not something that I want to do. And so that's why I'm choosing to freeze my carrots. One way I go about deciding how I'm gonna preserve things is I look at what I've purchased at the grocery store in the past. I have never purchased canned carrots, and so I don't wanna go through the effort of preserving something in a way that I'm not comfortable with cooking it. I don't know how to cook with it. I don't think we're gonna like it because mushy carrots, cooked carrots are not my favorite thing to have as like a side. I love them in soups and pot pies and things like that, stir fries. So I know that I'll like frozen carrots because I buy frozen carrots and I put them in things. And so I'm trying to be smart when I think about how I'm going to preserve these, because if I preserve them in a way we're not gonna eat them, then going through the effort of growing them, preserving them was all for nothing. For the carrot cake, we are gonna go ahead and make it in this bowl. I'm gonna start with 4 eggs, 2 cups of white sugar. I'm gonna whisk this together. Vanilla. One and a half cups of a neutral flavored oil. We're gonna put 2 cups of all-purpose flour. This is a half cup measure, so I'm gonna go ahead and get 4 of these in there. I just realized I am out of baking powder. Shoot. I'm gonna go run to my neighbor's house and ask them if I can borrow 2 teaspoons of baking powder. I'm gonna turn the stove off. I'm waiting for my neighbor to text me back if I can have 2 teaspoons of baking powder. That way I don't have to drive all the way into town. So in the meantime, while I'm waiting, I'm gonna go ahead and pre-measured out carrot amounts. And I'm measuring out 1 cup measures, and then I think I'm gonna do half cup measures, because sometimes you want shredded carrots for different recipes. I'm thinking carrot cake, carrot muffins, carrot bread, put this in baked oatmeal and make a carrot like harvest baked oatmeal with some applesauce and cinnamon and maybe nutmeg. Or even shredded carrots when I make like a potato gnocchi chicken soup we like shredded carrots in that instead of diced carrots. So I want 1 cup measures and I want half cup measures because I'm thinking for soups or even bolognese, we like shredded carrots and bolognese sauce, and it'll be nice to have them already pre-measured out. So I think I'm gonna do 1 cup measures and half cup measures. This is gonna make making different recipes this fall and winter easier. I'm going back and forth whether I wanna do them in pucks like this or if I wanna put them in Ziploc bags for safe space saving in the freezer. I think I decided I actually want to use my vacuum sealer so I can make them smaller and flatter in my freezer. So I have to make up some bags, and so I just did a test size, so we're gonna see if this works for 1 cup. I have a feeling that's a little too small, but we're gonna try it. So you have to hold this down and push. That worked pretty well. So I'm gonna make a few more of these. I'm gonna make them just a tad bigger, and that would be a 1 cup measure there. Carrot is gonna get everywhere, I can already tell. So I'm gonna make quite a few 1 cup measure ones for things like chilies, because I like to sweeten red sauces, chilies and stuff with carrot. I think it adds a nice sweetness. And then I'm also gonna do a couple that are 3 cup measures, and these are going to be for cakes because my mom's carrot cake recipe calls for 3 cups of carrots. I already measured these out, so I'm gonna get this in here. So this will be probably for my dad's birthday cake coming up this winter. And I will just go ahead and start measuring out 1 cup in here. Yeah, that size I think is perfect for 1 cup. I think I'm gonna go ahead and freeze all of this carrot. I was gonna use this carrot for the salad and for the carrot cake, but I'm gonna go ahead and freeze all of this, and then I will shred up some more carrot for tonight's dinner and for the carrot cake. So I'm gonna get 1 more 3 cup measure bag out so I can make 2 carrot cakes throughout this next year. In here. So I need to mark on these bags how much is in each one before I forget. I probably should have done that before I filled them, but better late than never. So I have 1, this is the only one that's 2 cups. So 2 cups, and then I'm gonna put the year. My goal is to try to go through these within 1 year.
I will link the recipes that I'm going to be using today down in the description box, along with any of the equipment I'm going to be using if you're interested in checking that out. The carrot cake recipe that we are making is my mom's carrot cake recipe, and it is so delicious. And we make it in a little bit of a unique way that I have never made before. I'm sure this is not a new way, but it's a way that makes cake making really easy, especially if you want to gift the gift of cake, which is what I end up doing with the carrot cake. And it really has my wheels turning on using this technique in a bunch of different ways come this holiday season for giving the gift of some homemade treats.
I on accident just sealed that, not vacuum sealed it. So I'm just gonna cut the top of that off.
If you ever do that, just cut the top off and then reseal it, and then it'll seal up perfectly. This is a new vacuum sealer that I got this year, and I've been loving it. It has been a lot better than the one that I was using last year. The one that I got, the one that I got before I got at Costco, and I ended up having to return it after 1 year. It pooped out on me after 1 year. And I am excited about having these convenient shredded carrots in my freezer. I just still can't believe that I grew enough carrots that I'm having to do a big preservation day like this. It's a huge blessing, and it's just a dream come true.
First project is now done. We got 2 of the 3-cup packages, so this is 2 carrot cakes worth. We got 1 2-cup measure and 2, 4, 6, 8 of the 1 cups. Now this one didn't totally seal, so I think I'm going to redo this. Sometimes that happens, and to fix it, all you have to do is open it back up and then redo it. But once I have all these sealed, I'm gonna go ahead and pop these in the freezer, and this project is done. So then we're gonna go ahead and finish our carrot cake. My neighbor texted me and said I can go borrow some baking powder. See, that sealed much better that time. Some baking powder, so I'm gonna go put these in the freezer, go grab the baking powder, and we will go ahead and make the carrot cake. We are back in business. We got ourselves some baking powder, but before I finish the cake, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm glad I cut the tops off these carrots because I used all the carrots, I froze them all, and we still need carrots for this carrot cake and for dinner tonight, so I'm gonna get all these shredded up. So to this little sieve, I'm gonna add 2 teaspoons of baking soda, and I'm gonna run it through the sieve just to get out any clumps. This is a 1/2 teaspoon, that's why I did 4 of those. And then we're gonna do 2 teaspoons of baking powder. I'm gonna run those through there so they are nice and declumpified. If that's a word, probably not. Mix that in together. I already added the salt. We need 3 cups of carrots. I'm gonna grab a different spoon. You're supposed to alternate the dry ingredients with the oil, but I'm just doing it all in this one bowl, so I did not do that. I do not want to overmix this batter, so now that my flour is basically incorporated, I'm going to measure out 3 cups of carrot. That's 3. The recipe calls for 1 cup of walnuts, but I don't have walnuts right now, and I have pecans that are chopped that I really need to use up. So I'm gonna substitute pecans for walnuts, and they're pre-chopped, so I didn't even have to chop them, which is always awesome. Now I'm gonna mix this together, and that is our carrot cake batter. We forgot the cinnamon, and we need 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. I'm glad I remembered before I mixed in the carrots and pecans all the way. I hope that's not all the cinnamon I have in my house. So I'm almost out of that too. Okay, perfect. I have 2 of these cute little loaf pans, foil pans that I got at Dollar Tree, and I am going to bake the cake in these. One of them is now gonna be for my neighbor for letting me borrow her baking powder. And the other one's gonna be for my mom because we're going out to eat for her birthday. And so I'm just gonna bring this as a gift and I can give it to her and she doesn't need to worry about giving it back. And I was gonna bake the rest of it in a bundt pan, but I don't think it's gonna fit in a bundt pan anymore. I think because I'm gonna do 2 of these to gift, I'm just gonna bake the rest of it in a loaf pan for Josh and I. So I'm gonna have to keep a close eye on these in the oven because these 2 I think are gonna bake a little bit quicker than my loaf pan. I've never baked a cake in a loaf pan before, so this is new to me. So I hope it works out because I hope it works out, just because I want it to work out. I am gonna make a cream cheese frosting to go on these, but that's gonna be in a bit because they're gonna have to come out of the oven completely cool before we can put the frosting on them. I'm gonna set the timer for 25 minutes. Well, it says they need to bake for, and normally my mom makes these in rounds and she does a tiered cake. My mom makes really beautiful cakes, but I'm not doing that today. She normally does it in 3 9-inch cake pans and she bakes them for 25 to 35 minutes. So I'm gonna start with 25 and then check it at that point. So now we have 2 of our projects done. Shredded carrots for the freezer, carrot cake. Let's get the side dish for dinner tonight, and then we can focus on blanching and freezing our carrots. For the carrot salad, I'm gonna go ahead and make the dressing right in the bowl that we're gonna have the salad in. Now this is gonna be more salad than we can eat tonight, but this holds up really well in the refrigerator. So I'm gonna make enough so we can have it for lunches as well. So this is some of our chive blossom vinegar that we infused earlier this spring. I just put in some mustard. Now I'm gonna put in some oil. Got pepper here. I'm just kind of making this up as I go along. We'll taste it for seasonings, adjust as needed. That was pepper. Some cilantro I'll reconstitute in the dressing. Carrots are pretty sweet, especially homegrown carrots, but we are using quite a bit of vinegar, so I'm gonna put probably about a teaspoon of honey in there. Some garlic. A little bit of red pepper, maybe a lot of red pepper. And last but not least, some onion powder. I'm gonna whisk this up, give it a taste test. Smells great. Hopefully I didn't put too much red pepper in there. That needs a little bit more honey. That is pretty tart. The flavor is good, but we need to balance it out just a little bit more. There's definitely a little bit of heat in the back end after the flavor comes through, but I think that will be good once we get the carrot in there, and that sweetness can come from not just the honey, but also from the carrot. Mix that in. That looks like a good amount of dressing for our carrots. I'm gonna dump all our shredded carrot in there. I'm gonna taste this carrot salad now that the carrots are in there, just to make sure it's a balanced flavor. Perfect. This is one of those salads that is perfect to make the day before. You can even, it is really good the day before. And I'm going to pop this in the fridge and we'll have it with tonight's dinner. We're having a pot roast for dinner. So delicious. I figured we better get this mess cleaned up before we start the next project because I've got dishes everywhere. And so I will enjoy the next project a little bit better if the kitchen is clean and I can think. So the next project we're gonna do is we are gonna start blanching. So I'm gonna turn the stove back on. Diced carrots so that we can have diced carrots for chicken pot pie, fried rice, chicken soup, anything you would use diced carrots in. And I'm thinking I'm gonna love it because it's gonna be like my diced frozen onions, which is one of my favorite things to have in the freezer because it's just so convenient. And if you're gonna cook it anyway, it doesn't matter if it's frozen or not. So we're just gonna take a second though first and get all this stuff put away. And I need to load my dishwasher as well because I've got a ton of dishes on the counter. And like I said, I'll be able to think a little bit better if it's not such a mess around here. Oh, we're also making, what's it called? We don't need the food processor anymore, so I can put this away. We're gonna make some Mexican pickled carrots that I absolutely love, and I've never made them before, but I've certainly got them at restaurants many of a time. So we've officially taken care of 2 of these 1-gallon bags. So I'm gonna see if we can get through at least 3 more of them. And I need to do the same thing where I need to scrub these really well.
The harvest was 76 pounds of carrots, I think. And so my goal is to try to keep quite a few of them fresh in the refrigerator. And I think I go into that, but basically what I do is I take a Ziploc bag, I line it with some cotton dishcloths, and then I put the carrots in there and they stay fresh in the refrigerator for quite some time. I'm not sure how long I can keep them fresh in there. I know I can't keep 70-ish pounds fresh. Josh and I can't eat that many fresh before they'll go bad, so that's why I am processing a bunch of them. That first variety of carrots that were wider at the top and more tapered at the bottom, those were called Royal Chantney carrots. This variety is called Bolero carrots, and I'm preserving both varieties because I want to make sure that I have both varieties fresh in the fridge so I can kind of do a side-by-side comparison and see which ones last longer in the fridge for fresh eating. So I knew that it would be good to get a couple wins under my belt before I go and start scrubbing even more carrots. So that's what I'm doing now, scrubbing even more carrots.
We were able to get another 2 gallons washed. My timer went off for my carrot cake. So let's take a look at it. I've got a cake tester here. And that's coming out clean. The big one needs a little bit longer. So we can take these 2 little ones out. I don't want to over bake them, but I also want to make sure they're done. This one I'm going to put in the middle. Yeah, that's still jiggly. That is not done. Yeah, those feel nice and done. So we're gonna let these cool completely. I wanna just double check with yeah, that's coming out perfectly clean. The next step for these carrots that we just washed is to cut them up and dice them into the desired shape I want in order to freeze them. I think I'm gonna do 2 different shapes to freeze depending on what application I want. I'm going to first compost these. I need to get these off my cutting board. If you like to make vegetable broth, you could certainly keep these carrot tops, throw them in the freezer, and when you go to make vegetable broth, use these. Or if you make chicken broth and you like carrots in it, I've come to the realization that when I make my broth, I just like it as plain as possible. So I'm gonna get that over there. I'm gonna get my cutting board wiped off here just because I'll feel better if it's a little bit cleaner. Be able to think a little bit better. And I know that I'm gonna have to do a nice good sweep and mop on the floor because there's gonna be little bits of carrot everywhere. I am glad that I decided to do this in sections because it feels good to get some wins under my belt, like getting the cake in the oven, getting the shredded carrots done, getting the dinner done, and that way I can get the motivation to keep going. So I'm gonna dice these carrots because this is how I like them in soups. So the idea is when you're preserving your food, whether you grew it or you bought it from a farmer or whatever, you found it on sale at the grocery store, the idea is you wanna make sure you preserve it in a way that is your family's favorite. Sometimes that comes with trial and error and experimenting. I know that when it comes to diced carrots for soups and things, we like a small dice. But if you like rounds with your carrots and you're going to preserve your carrots, and anytime you go to cook carrots, if you're putting them in a soup or stew and you just cut them in rounds, then that's the way you would want to do it. And so that's why I'm doing small cubes. And I'm gonna blanch these only for probably like a minute, hardly any time at all, because I'm cutting them so small.
My thought process on using the majority of the smaller carrots today on this day was I knew that it was going to be a tedious process to process all these carrots. And so being in the mindset of I'm going to focus, I'm going to get all these big projects done, and tediosity, I don't think that's a word, but the act of doing something super tedious for a long period of time, I thought, let me just tackle those small carrots, and then I'll keep the larger carrots in the refrigerator for fresh eating. I have no idea if larger carrots are a better candidate for fresh eating in storage for longer or small ones. My thought was just, let's get these small carrots dealt with so that this fall and winter, when I go to pull carrots out of the refrigerator to deal with them, I'm not going to be pulling all these teeny tiny tedious carrots out that I'm going to have to work with. So that was my thought process on that. I don't know if you guys have any suggestions on which size carrot stores better in storage for fresh eating in the refrigerator. I am all ears if you have any experience with that. So we just got a big thing off our to-do list.
Those 2 1-gallon bags gave me this huge bowl plus these, and so now we can go ahead and start blanching them. I need this colander. Oh, well, no, I don't. Yes, I do. I need this over here. I got these carrots washed too in the meantime. These are some larger carrots that we're going to turn into our pickles. And I'm going to put those in there. And we've emptied 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bags of carrots. So in this bowl that I have in the sink now, I'm going to fill it up with the coldest water I can. And I'm going to rinse this out because I'm going to use this. I'm going to get some ice in this too. I'm going to try to do this very carefully and in sections. It's probably going to take a couple rounds to get all these blanched. Probably should have got my big bowl out. We're not looking to cook the carrots. We just want to kill the enzyme or denature the enzyme that breaks down vegetables. So I'm going to set my timer for 1 minute. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get these carrots out of this water. I'm going to have my water come back up to a boil. And I'm going to stop the cooking process by getting them in this ice water. I'm still waiting for my water to come back up to a boil. And I want to dry these carrots off just a little bit before I put them in the freezer. So I just have a cookie sheet with a towel on it.
One thing I did to make my life a little bit easier on this day, knowing it was going to be a busy day in the kitchen, is I got a crock pot meal going. So you can see the crock pot in the back there. I went ahead and I did a beef roast because I thought that that sounded good on this day. It was rainy and gloomy and just kind of like the perfect fall day. And I thought a beef roast would go really well and it would make the house smell really, really good while I was in the kitchen processing all these carrots. Now, one thing I was looking for about 20 minutes before I started this day was my KitchenAid food processor attachment. I knew where the attachment was, but there's this one piece you need for the dicing disc. The food processor has a dicing disc, and I really wanted to use that to dice all these peppers because I ended up getting a blister on my finger from using the knife and cutting so much hard carrots. And so I couldn't find it, and I end up finding it right as I'm cleaning up on this day. So I'm really disappointed that I wasn't able to use that and at least, test it out. But I still have plans if I need to do a big processing day on the carrots, coming later in this fall when I notice and I'm like, oh, you know what? These carrots aren't staying as fresh in the refrigerator. I need to do something with them. Then hopefully I will be able to pull that out and test the chopping motion of that KitchenAid attachment. If you're wondering why I didn't use it and I did all this by hand, that is why. I couldn't find what the piece I needed to make that work.
This is the last of them. that were blanched going into the water. Gonna let that sit for a minute while I start processing these. When I mean process, I am going to blanch, we just blanched them. I'm going to flash freeze these carrots because I want them to stay individual. So when I go to cook with them, I can just grab a few out at a time. So I'm going to line my 2 cookie sheets with parchment paper. And I do have one more towel because I want to dry these off just a bit more. Where'd my towel go? To dry these off nicely. I want them on 1 layer thick so that they freeze individual instead of in one big clump. So I'm gonna go stick these in the freezer, and then I'll be back and I will get a 3rd tray ready for the freezer. Our 4th project is now all in the freezer, ready to completely freeze, and then I will package it up once it's flash frozen. I don't want it freezing in one big clump. So now we're going to go ahead and move on to our Mexican pickled carrots. I will link this recipe down below. I'm really excited about this. I think this is gonna be absolutely delicious, especially with these homegrown carrots that are oh so sweet. The first thing I'm gonna do for these pickles is I'm actually going to make the brine. And we're just gonna make a simple brine on the stove. So I need to grab out a pot to do that with. We'll do it right here. And we are going to make 1 recipe's worth. Hopefully that'll be enough brine. I wanna use all those carrots that I have. So we need, you know what, I think I'm going to do 1.5 recipes worth. So that's cider vinegar, water, salt. We're gonna let the sugar and salt dissolve and the vinegar infuse with the bay leaves while we prep the vegetables. For the vegetables, I have some cayenne peppers and jalapenos. These are all homegrown. The carrots we already prepped, plus our clean jars. And to the bottom of the jars, I'm gonna go ahead and add 2 garlic cloves. These are some freeze-dried garlic cloves, so they'll reconstitute perfectly in these pickles. And I'm really excited to have this because I think this is gonna be really good with tacos. I've never made this homemade. I have gotten it when we've gone out to Mexican restaurants many times, and so this is gonna be really fun to have this available for a quick vegetable when we have tacos. I also have 2 red onions here, and I'm gonna go ahead and chop all the vegetables and we're gonna layer them in our jars. We're not canning this. We are gonna do a quick pickle, but this will stay fresh in the fridge a very long time. And the cool thing is the carrots, jalapenos, cayenne peppers, garlic, and red onions are all homegrown. So this is quite an accomplishment. I'm really excited about having this on the pantry shelf. I'm wearing gloves because I am gonna be chopping these peppers and they could have some heat to them. Let's taste it. There is no heat to that cayenne pepper. It is sweet as a bell pepper. Hopefully my jalapenos have a little bit more heat. Let me take a taste of one of my jalapenos. That's sweet too, but that's okay. It has good flavor. I was hoping there would be a little bit of heat to it, but Josh will probably enjoy it a little bit more if there's not too much heat to it. So I'm slicing up these cayenne peppers pretty thinly. They're so beautiful. I'm gonna slice up these jalapenos. I've already pre-washed these peppers before I put them in the fridge so that as soon as I was gonna use them, they would be ready for me. These are some strong onions. Woo! I'm gonna set those aside and I'm gonna kind of make piles. And now that we've got our peppers, our onions, we can start processing these carrots. And again, they were washed so well that I'm not going to peel them, and I'm gonna try to cut them at a diagonal because that is more traditional. So that they're kind of these oblong shapes here.
These are my new favorite thing. I can't even tell you how delicious they are. I've already gone through an entire jar. We make 4 jars on this day, and I make an additional 4 jars over the following weekend because I've already gone through a jar. They are so good, and they do have some heat to them. So the one particular pepper, jalapeno, and cayenne I tried weren't spicy, but there definitely is a spicy one in there. And then the 4 new jars I make, I don't add any spice to them.
This is boiling, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn the heat off, and I'm just gonna let it sit while I finish cutting up the vegetables. How beautiful is that? So let's get these vegetables into the jars. Now I'm gonna start by just layering in the vegetables. So I'm gonna start with the jalapenos. We already have the garlic in there. And then I'm gonna put in some cayenne peppers in each jar. The next thing we're gonna add are some of our red onions, and each of these vegetables is gonna be really yummy. Not just the carrots, because we'll definitely be able to eat and enjoy all these vegetables on tacos or as a side or fajitas. And now carrot.
This is so easy. You're just going to continue to repeat the process of layering the different vegetables. I went a little heavy on the peppers toward the bottom because toward the top I didn't have quite as many peppers, but it ends up working out just fine. I tried to put as much vegetables as I could in each jar. Now, because we're not canning them, we're not cooking these vegetables, and so they are going to retain their crunch. They do get a little bit softer because we are going to be putting that really hot brine over the top, so they're not as crunchy as a fresh carrot, but they are still extremely crunchy. I want to experiment trying to can them so that they would be pantry and shelf stable, but I do think you would lose a little bit of that delicious crunch.
We can go ahead and pour our brine into our pickles, or soon to be pickles, but I do want to fish out the bay leaves. I don't want those in my pickles. I think I have enough brine here for this. I'm going to stir it just a little bit to make sure everything is dissolved properly. And then we're just going to pour our brine over our pickles, or soon to be pickles. So I'm gonna have to make a little bit more brine. For this last one, instead of using apple cider vinegar, I'm gonna use just white distilled vinegar so I can see if I like a difference between them. I just put a little bit of salt. I'm gonna make the brine right in the jar. Then I'm gonna pour in a little bit of sugar, and I'll put this one in my inside fridge. So a couple times in the next couple days, I'll shake it just to make sure that the sugar and salt dissolves. I'm gonna fill it with some white distilled vinegar, and then I'm gonna go top it with some water. And then I'm just gonna make sure it's topped off with vinegar. And I wanna make sure there's no air bubbles in these. For these pickles, I'm gonna put these leak-proof lids on. I don't wanna use stainless steel if I can avoid it, just because there's so much vinegar in this brine. And then I'm gonna pop these in the fridge, and you wanna let them sit for a few days before you enjoy them so that they have a good time to kind of infuse and get all their pickly flavor. But look how beautiful that is. I'm really excited about this project.
I do like the apple cider vinegar pickles better than the white distilled vinegar pickles for the carrots, but they both tasted really good. I think the apple cider vinegar pickles were a little bit sweeter, just the way Apple cider vinegar is a little bit sweeter than white distilled, but they both turned out really good. Like I said, one of my absolute new favorite things, and I'm so excited that most of it was homegrown. So now that we've got that project out of the way, we're gonna go back to our carrot cake. Our carrot cake has cooled, so we're gonna make the frosting. And because I'm not doing a tiered cake, I cut my mom's cream cheese frosting recipe in half. So it is a half a stick of butter, a half a stick of cream cheese, and I'm doing 2 cups. Well, it looks like I did 3 cups of, maybe that's a half cup measure. I'll link the recipe down below, of powdered sugar, and then a splash of vanilla and a teeny pinch of salt. And then I whisk that together. Now, I did forget to bring out my cream cheese and butter from the refrigerator, so I popped both of those in the microwave for about 10 seconds each, just so that they were soft enough that I could whip them. I mixed up my frosting, I got that all mixed together, and then I'm gonna pipe it on top. I didn't think I needed as much frosting because I'm just gonna be piping the frosting on the top, and I think it turns out so cute. I'm gonna be making these with all different kind of cakes, I think, for gifts this coming Christmas. They baked up perfect. You could get them out of the loaf pan just perfectly, and they were so good. So I did take the excess frosting out of that I couldn't get really into that piping bag, or AKA off-brand Ziploc bag that we're going to use as a piping bag. I didn't want to waste that little bit of frosting, so I just used a spatula and I scraped it on top of each cake. And then I cut, just by happenstance, my corner of my Ziploc bag at a little bit of an angle. And I think this turned out so beautiful. It kind of gave this scalloped edge to the piping. I did just one little like zoop, zoop, zoop down. This one's for us, the one in the tin. So that's why I'm just plopping it on there. But the ones for gifts, I just did that really pretty swirl. And I think it's simple and homemade looking and absolutely delicious. So one of those is going to be for my mom. I end up popping it in the fridge and I bring it to dinner. We go out to dinner for my mom's birthday, and I bring this one for her, and then one of them in the other tin is going to go for my neighbor as a thank you for saving me from not having baking powder, which is crazy that I ran out of baking powder. And then this one is for Josh and I. Now our blanched carrots are nice and frozen and individual, so I can take these carrots and I can put them in our freezer bags for the vacuum sealer. And I put about 4 cups or so in each one. I know that I won't be able to go through an entire bag when I open it. So what I think I will probably end up doing, I didn't want to do them like 1 cup or individual servings. I wanted them to be more in each bag just because I didn't want to use as many bags. So I figured when I open one, say I'm going to make chicken pot pie for dinner or whatever it might be, fried rice, then I can just either reseal it and put it in the inside freezer, or I could, wrap it and put it in a Ziploc bag or something like that. But that was my thought. I just did not want to go through so many of the freezer bags. No, these aren't freezer bags. These are called, what are these? Vacuum seal bags. And so oh goodness. And so that's why I package them up a little bit bigger than individual servings. So I did this in stages. I had 3 trays in the freezer, and I only pulled 1 tray out at a time because I wanted to make sure each individual carrot stayed as cold as possible. And we were able to get a lot done. I still have a lot of carrots in the refrigerator. I think we started with 14 bags of fresh carrots in the refrigerator from the garden after I had gifted some. And I think we used a total of six bags. I can't remember now exactly, but we went through a lot. And those Ziploc bags that had the carrots in, I did go ahead and wash those out, and I will reuse those because they only had carrots in them for about 3 days. And so I didn't want to waste those. So I did wash out those Ziploc bags for later use. So here is the last of the bag going into the freezer for diced carrots.
We officially got all the projects done today that I wanted to get done. I'm going to recap everything that we got done. I still have 8 bags of carrots in my refrigerator. I'm going to try to keep quite a few of them fresh for fresh eating. I'm going to show you how I'm doing that. Last year, I didn't get any carrots that I preserved at all. So not even for fresh eating. We just ate them as they came out of the garden. They were so few and they were so little. We just ate them basically as snacks in the garden. So this year, I'm gonna try something I did 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I can't remember, and it worked really well. And so I'm gonna attempt to do it again this year. And my goal is to eat through the fresh carrots first, and we might have to do one more big preservation day, but I will figure out new ways to preserve it coming up if I need to do that, because we have so many carrots. And I've already gifted quite a few of these carrots away. I've got a friend coming over tomorrow, on Wednesday, today's Monday. Maybe I will gift her some carrots too if she wants. But let me show you how I'm gonna try to keep as many fresh, and I'm gonna test these two varieties to see which one stays fresh the longest in my refrigerator. The way I did it before, and I figured this out by happenstance, but I was able to keep fresh carrots in my refrigerator for a few months by having a cotton cloth in here, and I have 2 cotton towels, one on the bottom, one on the top, in a Ziploc bag. I don't have a root cellar, and there's something about the way the towel absorbs the moisture, that there's not a bunch of condensation that they're sitting against in the bag and molding. So I've got a bunch in my fridge. We'll see which one stays the best. One of the nice things is, though, today I processed all the little carrots. So the only carrots I have left are large carrots, which is great because I'm more likely to want to grab them and cook with them if they're large instead of small. I do have all these dishes that I need to do. It's 7:30. I probably won't get to those tonight. I would rather go hang out with my family and leave the dishes for another day. Today was super productive, though. I think we managed to tackle 8 gallons worth of carrots. I'm not exactly sure, but we got a lot of carrots tackled. And then we are going to cut into this cake and give it a try with the pecans. I haven't had carrot cake in a long time. I think it was since I did the Galentine's Day was the last time I had carrot cake. And I'm curious to see how it works cooking it in a tin like this, basically making a quick bread version, which quick bread basically is cake. Oh yeah, that's delicious. Josh? He can't hear me, but I think he likes carrot cake. I can't remember now, which is kind of sad. I know his favorite carrot cake is the yellow cake with chocolate frosting. I just don't know his thoughts on carrot cake. Now, are you team raisin in your carrot cake? I am not. Get those raisins away from carrot cake, but I know that some people really like that. This is so good. I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to spend time with me now, because I have so many carrots still left. If you guys have any suggestions on how you like to preserve carrots, any recommendations, anything you've done that worked, hasn't worked, please let me know. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being you. If you want to watch some more of my videos, I can pop them here. You can go enjoy it between now and my next upload. I hope you are having a fantastic day, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye, friend.